Nimrod, Semiramis, and the mystery religion of Babylon. Here explain at the beginning the first empire after the flood was summer, and they started the mystery religion of Babylon at the time. During Sumerian Empire, the first empire. So, Semiramis commanded her total authority over her subjects and constantly indoctrinated the priesthood with this mystery religion. Priests and astrologers obeyed her commands and aggressively marketed the mystery religion. They did it then, they do it now. Nothing new under the sun. They have been aggressively marketed the mystery religion. One of them is astronomy, horoscope. Ancient Sumerians knew Semiramis as the goddess of Inanna. So he is one of her name. They erected many temples to commemorate her as the goddess of sexual love, which is sexual immorality and fertility. So, since she is both Nimrod and her, both of them, were the offsprings of fallen angels, hybrid human. So they always living with the habit of sexual immorality. That's why she proclaimed as a prostitute. And Ilana as her name as a goddess. And Semiramis, again, I strongly agree that she probably was Sophia at the time. She just shape shift as a human being because she after she fell from heaven, before she fell from heaven, she already created many monsters on the earth plane. So I don't think she would pick one of her offspring to take on this important task as a main center of attention. So she probably shift herself and become Semiramis. Again, of course, there's a possibility that one of her offsprings take on this important role, But anyway. So she created an ancient mythology, depicts herself as ascending to heaven as a dove. Again, they like to copy Bible. So here she copied the Bible, say she is pure as a dove. Okay. Anyway. So her son with her husband and herself, Trinity. Again, copy God, Holy Spirit, and Jesus. And she and her son again copy Mary and Jesus. So she created a mother-son cult. Tammuz was her son, and she probably most likely used her own witchcraft to create this human hybrid Tammuz because I heard I found out some analogies and of people that study the ancient scriptures and books and articles. They claim that post flood the Lebanons they had a hard time to procreate. So maybe that's one reason why, even though Nimrod and Semiramis they married for a long time, but they didn't have any offsprings, and finally she most likely used witchcraft to create this offspring, Tammuz, Horus. Sumerians worshipped the mother-son duo. After human dispersion at the Tower of Babel, worship of the fertility goddess and mother-son duo continued across the ancient world, but the names changed in different locations due to, of course, different languages. Inanna Semiramis was known as Ishtar in Babylon, Isis in Egypt, and the sun husband was Osiris, the sun god, and Horus. And there is an inscription engraved in an Egyptian temple of Isis that reads, I am all that has been, or that is, or that shall be. No mortal has removed my veil. The fruit which I have brought forth is the sun. The sun was Osiris, deified Nimrod, and actually the son offspring is Horus, Tammuz, and she proclaimed it's the reincarnation of Nimrod. So that's why they try to confuse people. Wait, after that time of period, so nobody can trace back to the origin. Okay, so now we have different names because of different languages, different from different countries, right? So it's not because we incarnate to different goddesses. No, it's just because of the languages. She was worshipped as Venus in Rome, counterpart Cupid, and Aphrodite in Greece. She was also called Diana, Artemis, great fertility goddess of the Ephesus. Worship of this goddess became a roadblock in the Apostle Paul's early mission to the city of Ephesus, as mentioned in the book of Acts 1923 to 41. The Old Testament records the name of this fertility goddess of the Canaanites as Astaroth. Paul's counterpart, Judge 2:12, 3:7, 1 Kings 18:19, 2 Kings 21:7. So it was in Canaanites. Ashtaroth. She became a stumbling block for the Jews and their leaders who first settled this area for many generations. The prophet Jeremiah prophesied about the worship of this goddess. The woman added, when we burned incense to the Queen of Heaven and poured out drink offerings to her, did not our husbands know that we were making cakes like her image and pouring out drink offerings to her? Then Jeremiah said to all the people, both men and women, who were answering him, "Did not the Lord remember and think about the incense burned in the towers of Judah and the streets of Jerusalem by you and your fathers, your kings, and your officials, and the people of the land? When the Lord could no longer endure your wicked actions and detestable things you did, your land became an object of cursing, and a desolate was without inhabitants as it is today, because you have burned incense and have sinned against the Lord, and have not obeyed him, or followed his law, or his decrees, or his stipulations. This disaster has come upon you, as you now see." Jeremiah 44:19-23. Okay, so let's see. Semiramis became a powerful ruler in Mesopotamia following the death of Nimrod. The Sumerian name Semiramis was the original name of this woman, Semiramis. This suggests the ancient civilization of Samaria may have taken their name from her. The name Semiramis is translated "gifts of the sea." Again, I have mentioned that gift of the sea means she's from the sea and she was mermaid. And so let's see. The first part of this name, summer, becomes sinner when translated into Hebrew. The land of Sinner is the biblical name for the region of southern Mesopotamia. Both the Sumerians and the land of Summer were likely named after this notorious woman. Most anthropologists credit the Sumerians with the beginning of human civilization, the beginning of human civilization after the flood. So now, why I introduce Nimrod and Semiramis, which is Semiramis, to you right now, telling you the details because they consider the beginning of human civilization after the flood, and they created one world, one religion, mystery of religion, mystery Babylon, all the idol worship, kidnap, mutilation, torture, worship, human worship as gods, deification, sacrifice, were from them. They started it. Semiramis ruled for more than 40 years after Nimrod's death. Her son was likely Gilgamesh, and he ruled after her. The famous Gilgamesh epic is quite similar to the biblical flood story, except he is the central figure. The mystery religion of Babylon probably originated in the evil mind of Semiramis. Nimrod and Cush also contributed significantly to its development. Nimrod and the astrologers. The mystery religion of Babylon was scattered over the entire world by the dispersion of humanity from Babel. The dragon used this opportunity to spread his venom through the generations that subsequently arose. This religion was replete with Celtic rituals of prostitution, idol worship, child sacrifice, magic, divination, and animal sacrifice. Priests, diviners, magicians, and prostitutes all participated regularly in these cultic rituals. The Bible is filled with examples of mediums, astrologers, diviners, temple prostitutes, and child sacrifice, which were all associated with this religion in various civilizations of the ancient world. These biblical examples bear testimony of an apostate religion that was detestable to the Holy God, but there was one notable exception. Three wise men traveling from the east, possibly Babylon, followed the star of God. They had set out to find the promised seed, the legitimate Son of God, born of a truly virgin woman. These men were schooled in the astrology of the Chaldeans, but it is probable a famous Jewish prophet had taught their ancestors. This Jew had ascended the hierarchy of ruling elite in Babylon hundreds of years before. His name was Daniel, the same prophet who wrote the Old Testament book bearing his name. Daniel likely knew God's message of truth in the constellations, the message the astrologers of Nimrod had corrupted so many generations before. Daniel's parents had probably instructed him about these heavenly signs before Nebuchadnezzar's marauding bands of Babylonian soldiers killed them as they reduced Jerusalem to a pile of rubble. Daniel understood God's promise to provide a seed who would one day redeem mankind. His own prophecies described this man, God-man, as the redeemer of the Jewish nation. I think it is Israelites, Jerusalem, Israel, not necessarily the present day of Jewish nation. Okay. Daniel presumably imparted his knowledge to the astrologers during his lifetime in Babylon. After all, Daniel saved the lives of these men by describing, then interpreting a dream of King Nebuchadnezzar. Daniel 2:24-45. Daniel's God must have significantly impressed these counselors of the king. Perhaps they listened intently as Daniel taught them about the seed of God who would someday come into the world of mankind. These men likely passed down Daniel's prophetic wisdom through subsequent generations. When God's Son was born in humble circumstances over 400 years later, the three wise men of Babylon apprehended the heavenly signs the Lord provided them. They followed a star to the ultimate place of worship, a stable, where the Son of God lay in a lonely manger. The promised seed was virtually unnoticed by the rest of the world. In that unlikely place, three wise men, astrologers, met the one true God and Redeemer of mankind. Matthew 2:1-12. In what time period was the Tower of Babel built in? The Tower of Babel incident occurred around 4,200 years ago, about 100 years after the flood, but before Abraham was born. This was before ancient Egypt, Greece, and other early civilizations. These places couldn't have begun until after people left Babel to establish these other civilizations. Noah's grandson Javan found Greece. When we read Greece in the Old Testament, it is actually the name Javan, which we translate as Greece. Noah's grandson Masram found Egypt. When we read Egypt in the Old Testament, it is the name Masram that we translate as Egypt. Famous and ancient civilization you are familiar with couldn't have existed until after Babel. This means the Tower of Babel was built prior to the appearance of these ancient cultures.